Ladies and gentlemen, so I'm starting a brand new series where I'll be looking at all 30 NBA teams and providing my insight on how I think they'll perform this season. That'll be based on things like free agency, the trade market, as well as the draft. So the team we'll be looking at today is the Brooklyn Nets. And the Brooklyn Nets had a very disastrous start to last season. So 7 games in last year, head coach Steve Nash and the organization parted ways. They started 2-5 and a lot of issues. Some of it probably boiling up from last season. So they put Jack Vaughn in place as the interim coach, and then about after a month or so, they appointed Jack as a full-time head coach, and I do think he deserves it. He's had experience with the Orlando Magic as well, so very good move by the Nets. Get some stability there. But talking about stability, the Nets didn't have any of that last year. So star guard Kyrie Irving requested a trade in February of last year. And the Nets, I think they were at a point where they were just over Kyrie. They wanted to move on. So they sent him out to Dallas. They acquired Dorian Finney-Smith, as well as former Net Spencer Dinwiddie, and some draft capital. And this kind of helped them move on from Irving. But then a couple days later, they decided to send his buddy Kevin Durant out to the Phoenix Suns. So in that trade, they acquired Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, as well as 4 first-round picks. And I think that was a very good and fair return for the Nets. Helps them, build for the future as well as put together a competitive team for now, as Bridges is a very good two-way player, and then Cam Johnson, is a sniper, very efficient three-point shooter, and then the 4 picks obviously, will help them, in the long run. It'll help them, replenish some assets, that they lost. So, good move there. But in terms of the season, they finished sixth in the East, and then they ended up losing to the Sixers in 4 games. So a disappointing season, a lot of tough situations not going their way, but it feels like they're sort of moving into positive light, for next season. So in terms of looking at their off season, trying to understand the moves they made and if that'll improve the team going forward. So in the draft, they acquired Noel Clowney as well as Derek Whitehead in the first round. And then the second round, they drafted Jalen Wilson. So Clowney was a highly regarded player. He finished with 10 points, 8 rebounds, and he finished sixth in win share for his draft class. And then Derek Whitehead, he was considered the number one prospect from coming out of high school for his class, and he didn't get a lot of minutes, but he did shoot over 40% from three, so he impressed in that category. And then Wilson was a 4-year player from Kansas, won a national championship, averaged 20 points per game. The story with the rookies in the NBA is that a lot of times they won't get meaningful playing time. I think that's probably going to be the case with the Nets as well. Derek Whitehead shown that he could shoot the three ball. He's still recovering, from injury. I think he might be one of the guys that gets some minutes off the bench because the Nets really need 3-point shooting, and they really need 3-point shooting because they sent out fan favorite, longtime Net Joe Harris. Joe was instrumental in the Nets rebuild. Nets really developed him really well. He got multiple contracts with Brooklyn, and he's made his money. But he's been a fantastic three-point shooter, which those results were starting to come down. He had one of the worst years of his career, and some of that was, dealing with past injuries as well as not getting enough playing time. So sending him out to Detroit, pure salary dump. We get that about $18 million or so off the books. Good move for them, gets them out of the luxury tax, but they lose, a very good shooter. And then another move they made was sending out Patty Mills, sent him out to Atlanta, another salary dump. Patty was a good clubhouse leader, could also shoot the three ball pretty well when needed. So essentially just a salary dump, but wish Patty well. He's he was a good net and he's a great leader. So I think he'll definitely be missed. And then in terms of free agency, Nets made some under the radar moves because all the guys they signed were for the veterans minimum, very conscious with where they were in terms of the cap space, and they did not want to go into luxury tax. So some of the guys they signed were Dennis Smith Jr., Lonnie Walker IV, Darius Baisley, and Trenton Watford. Dennis Smith Jr. has shown that he's been a quality talent. Efficiency wise, he struggles. Doesn't shoot the ball that well. But he averaged about 5 assists last year. In a pretty big role with the Hornets. I could see him, playing somewhere off the bench. Whether that be backup point guard or maybe seventh or eighth guy off the bench. I do think he has a role with this team. I'm just not sure exactly how it'll shape up, because he's going to be competing with like Cam Thomas as well as Dinwiddie and even Ben Simmons. So I think it'll be interesting to see where he fits into that puzzle. And then the other guys, Lonnie Walker IV, he had a good year with Lakers, had probably one of his best seasons efficiency wise. But I don't know, I don't know where he plays. Same goes for Baisley. He's a big guy, a 5, but he's playing behind Nick Claxton as well as Darren Sharp. I don't think there's a lot of minutes here for him. And then Trenton Watford showed that he could be a very good NBA player. Played around like 15 to 20 minutes max a night, averaged 7 or 8 points. Could shoot the ball well. He's pretty efficient, but I think he's probably in the same boat where he's probably not going to get a lot of playing time unless Nets are hit with a bunch of injuries. I do think the Nets made an interesting extension move this offseason where they gave Cam Johnson a long-term deal, 4 years, $95 million. And they had to probably pay him more than they originally expected because there was a lot of stiff competition, for Cam's services. He's 6'8" forward, can shoot the ball really well, pretty good defender, can get to the basket, and he's experienced. When he came out of college, he was a 4-year player already, so he has a little bit of edge on his rookie class. So I do think the Nets had to lock him up, so they made a good move there. Made sure that they have Mikal Bridges' buddy on the team, and they're set in that regard. I think I've said all of this and haven't mentioned Ben Simmons even once. He had the worst season of his career last year, averaged like about 6.6 rebounds, 6 assists, struggled efficiency wise, and he was hurt. Ben Simmons was hurt. His name was slandered in the media. I don't think he was given a fair shake. I do feel bad for him in many regards, and I hope that this is the year he really feels fully healthy and he does a good job. But the Nets really will need him, if they want to do anything significant this upcoming season. But I think this upcoming season will give them a chance to move on from the shadows of the KD and Kyrie era, where the expectations were always championship and bust, and now they have a chance to, build up without a lot of pressure. Mikal Bridges is that guy. He's the first guy for this team. The first star, number one option. I don't think he's a guy that can lead a team to the championship by himself, and the Nets are far away from that. But having him, I think the Nets will really need Cam Johnson to step up his ball game. They've made a significant investment in him. He's going to need to go from like 15, 16 points to like 21, 22 points with good defense, bring that energy and leadership as well. Frankly, they need Ben Simmons to step up. He's got to go back to that guy that can, play on both sides of the ball, fearless attacking the basket. We didn't see any of that last season, so hopefully, he'll get back to that. And then I think you're going to be looking for guys like Cam Thomas to step up. He's shown that he can be a guy that can put up 40 points. He's did it 3 times in a row last season. He's a good scorer, seems to always be on the wrong side of the coaching staff, so hopefully he'll get that sorted out. and he'll play, maybe a complementary role where he's six man, coming in, giving you 15, 18, 20 points a night whenever you need. Um, Darren Sharp, I think he will probably get a lot of good backup big minutes. Nick Claxton, I think he's a great player. He's shown it. He's really shown it. He's shown a lot of improvement. He was top 10 in win share last season. He's shown that he can play extremely well on the defensive side of the ball. And then last year, I think he averaged about 14 points a game. He's really ascending in that nature as well. So the Nets have a lot of things to be excited about. They haven't made enough moves to say that they've gotten significantly better. I think they'll compete for a spot in the play-in tournament, and that's probably their ceiling for now. But you never know what sort of moves they have, you know, potentially in the works. So we'll see. Appreciate everyone watching. Leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much.